Welcome back to Context. We are here with Sonja Garnett, softball coach at St. Mary's College. Coach, super excited to see you. It's been a long time. Thanks for being
here.
So why don't you take a second, if you don't mind, and share with our listeners the process of you landing your first head coaching job, assistant coaching job. How did you get to where you are now?
Sure. So I played at SF State, and the opportunity was there for me to jump on and assist when I graduated. So I did that for a year. Traveled overseas after that opportunity playing professionally, played in Germany, Italy, and Australia, and got a taste of coaching at all those places as well. And that was a really exciting experience. And after about 3.5 years of living overseas, I came back and really wanted to get into coaching. I knew I wanted to be a head coach. My goal was always to be a Division II head coach, and so I started looking at the things I needed to do. I got my master's degree at Long Beach State. While I was doing that, I coached it at a high school for a year, and then at Whittier College, which is a D3 school in Southern California. And then actually in that transition period, I was about to graduate, get my master's degree, go try to find a head coaching job. I thought that I had all the boxes checked. And actually my father fell ill. And so he was diagnosed with cancer. So I actually hopped industries. I swirled ice cream for a year as a manager of an ice cream store. And I was really fortunate that I was able to land that and stay close to my father. And then about a year later, he wound up passing away, and an old friend reached out who I had actually met on a trip in Italy, and that was Dre with Monterey. And so wound up hopping on board with her for a couple of years. I was excited to leave the nest and just get out there and do something. Coached there for 2 years, great experience, love Monterey, and that's where you and I met, of course. And from there, had the opportunity I applied at Academy of Art, again, pursuing the Division II head coaching role that I had always wanted. Got fortunate enough to get it, and the rest is kind of history. So was able to take that program to postseason for the first time in history, got a 41-win season, and I think because of that, got a phone call from St. Mary's to submit an application. So here I am, and I'm going into my third year at St. Mary's. It's Division I school, and not everywhere I thought I would wind up, but I'm so grateful, and it's a perfect fit for me.
Wow, what a journey. And the pivot away and scooping ice cream for a year and then figuring out how to get back into the game, had to be, both a difficult challenge for you, but also, I would say, fulfilling as you were able to jump back in. Did you find that challenging to kind of pick up where you had left off for a little bit?
Definitely. And I think that I, in my own brain at such a young age, thought, I was an All-American pitcher. I played internationally. My resume is going to speak for itself. I'm just going to go out there and apply. I probably applied that year that I got Monterey. I probably applied to 20-some jobs and didn't even get a call back. Wow. And one of the things I learned through that is it's all about who you know. And so, again, so fortunate that I wound up getting back to Monterey with Dre, and that I got that. It was actually her daughter FaceTime messaged me. So I'm so grateful for that opportunity, and all the rest is history again.
Great. So you get your first head job at Art U after, a long distinguished career of playing, assisting, being at SF State, then being at Whittier, which is a pretty high academic school, if I have that right, and then playing professionally. And now here's your opportunity to be a head coach. This is what you've always wanted. I'm ready. I got all the boxes checked, you mentioned. What did you realize that you still needed to figure out once you stepped into that role?
So many things. I think the big things for me were one, just figuring out where we were at as a school. So I knew that that was going to be its own challenge. I was at an art school. I was trying to figure out the mindset of these athletes. They weren't very successful. What was their work ethic? So just figuring out where we were in that moment. But also, what is the load of a head coach? We have to make our own schedule. We have to, do all the training times, make sure, at Academy of Art too, we had to schedule buses to make sure we got we practiced off campus. So every day we took a bus. So just learning the actual office side of the job and the weight of that and the amount of things that go into it, that was pretty overwhelming, and trying to kind of prioritize that. And then the other thing that I found I really wanted to do well and was really important to me was, I feel like I was a good assistant, because creating the relationship with the athletes has always been a priority to me.
Mm-hmm.
But your relationship as a head coach is so different, because you need to be the one that has the firm hand and is a little bit more stricter, stronger with athletes. And so just finding my own personal comfort space in that role was certainly a challenge that took a couple years, I think.
So I was talking to a buddy of mine on the first episode of this, and he said something to the effect of, as you move over 18 inches as a basketball coach and you're now in that head role, the relationship changes. And then I was talking to a local AD friend of mine here who said, it's funny, when you're the assistant coach, your van is full. And when you're the head coach, nobody wants to be in your van.
100%. 100%.
So
I do listen to good music in my van. So sometimes I get a few extra kids, but no.
Absolutely. Still coach. Yeah. So what did you learn about alignment of the student athletes at your particular institution and how you had to recruit to that? And what have you noticed as you've shifted to St. Mary's?
Good question. So when I did my sports management degree at Long Beach, mm-hmm. one of the reasons I did that, and like they had a coaching degree and stuff like that, that you could go into, but I really wanted to understand the business of sport a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And it really is a business. Recruiting is trying to find the best athletes, the best people to buy your product, right? And so to me, being at an art school, I just really relied on the fact that I wanted athletes who either just totally believed that they were going to make a difference at this school, or that they genuinely wanted to study something that had to do with art. So, and we had all kinds of stuff. We had architecture and animation, and it's actually a very cool school. And so selling our majors really narrowed my focus for what I was looking for recruiting wise, right? Like I'd go look at the best talent, but I'd always ask, what do they want to major in? And if it was nursing, it just made my bucket smaller, which actually makes your job easier as a recruiter. So that's kind of been the same thing at St. Mary's. We're looking for someone who's high academic, has a strong moral compass, is a hard worker who wants to make a difference in a program. And to me, we're a growing program, and that's exciting to be a part of. So just kind of selling our brand of softball at St. Mary's.
Got it. And I would imagine that finding athletes and students that are mission appropriate fits is one of the most important parts of recruiting and bringing people into your culture.
Absolutely.
Great. So you mentioned that becoming a head coach made you reevaluate your role because you felt that you were a really good assistant. And one of the things that's come up in a couple of these conversations is, what does that mean, right? What does it mean to be a good assistant? What does that look like? In my own way, I've often tried to encourage my assistants and young coaches that, your role is to get told no 99 times and still make the 100th suggestion with confidence. How would you describe what you're looking for in a really good assistant?
Well, I've been fortunate enough to have, ever since I've been a head coach, I've had wonderful assistants, and our associate head coach right now has actually been with me. We're going into our 6th year. And some of the things that I look for is just values, like our value set should be very similar. I don't mind if we go toe to toe on something behind closed doors that's important, and we battle about it. And if we come out of that room, we're on the same page. And sometimes I win, sometimes she wins. But at the end of the day, just like you said, you want 99 suggestions, and that 100th might be the one that you get a yes on. So I want someone that's going to challenge me and make me better. Our other assistant this year, her name is Gordy Bravo. She plays for the Mexican national team. They're going to the Olympics next year.
Wow.
So she's a stopper outfielder, and she's teaching me things every day. And I thought I knew, you think you've kind of made it once you're a head coach, but the key is to continue to be educated and learn new things and different ways to look at things. Mm-hmm. So I think I want to surround myself with assistants who are teaching me things, but also kind of loyal to the vision of the program. And I don't think it's being loyal to me as much as the program's the most important thing, right? Our history, our alums, our future, where we're going, that needs to be our compass for what we do every day.
Right. And when you said how much you learned about the weight and business of being a head coach, as an assistant, you don't really have to worry about that, right? You show up and coach, and that's what you got. And as the head coach, you're wearing a bunch of different hats that may have nothing to do with softball, and the ability of them to complement your maybe areas of growth and fill those for you and take things off your plate is something that I would imagine is very helpful.
Absolutely. So just getting some of that stuff off my plate and giving them experience in those categories has been good too.
Yep. And I think that's how you grow that next generation, right? By empowering them and helping them develop their skill set. So you've had, again, a long journey. You've been at a bunch of different places. And this is a question that I'm always curious, one, because I want to try to steal something, but two, what are the things that other people are doing that they've found to be transformational in their own program? And, as you think about your journey and where you are now and what you've brought with you and what you've left behind, what's the best thing you do as a program that has had the largest ripple effect through your culture? The thing that it's like, we do this no matter what. I picked this up over here, or I just developed it.
I think it's actually so simple, and it's just taking time with the athletes and with the coaching staff to have communication and know a little bit about them outside of softball. I think it's the relationship. So when I started RU, it is such a commuter school, and we commute to the field, and we didn't really have a close office space. So we started taking the athletes out to coffee, spending time with them, finding space away from softball to get to know them a little bit. And so whatever that looks like, sometimes it's coffee, sometimes it's Zoom now, sometimes it's a phone call, but just creating space to really get to know the athletes. And then the other thing that we do that I think actually holds a lot of power is, before we practice, we do this thing called stress and excitement. And they literally just share what they're stressed about and what they're excited about for practice that day. And it has to be softball specific. Right. So that they kind of get their whole body where their feet are, and their mind kind of on moving forward, but they also share their baggage with us, because I think that it's so important. Right now, especially, these athletes are going through so much mentally, physically, everything, that they need to have some sort of an outlet, and just for us all to be relating on that is important. It's super small stuff, but I do think that the ripple effect has been unexpected.
Small, but important in regards to setting the table, especially with the second piece that you shared, for how you're going to be together in that moment, getting whatever is a potential distraction off of their plate so that you can be focused while you're together.
Correct.
And is that something that you started at St. Mary's, or did you start that earlier?
We did. We started it at RU, and it was something we would do on the bus rides to practice, just kind of get grounded and get excited about where we were going, because they'd fall asleep on the bus, and it just became such a valuable part of our day that I wanted to make sure we carried it over.
I'm curious, because I don't know the complete background, but I do know that, we met when you were giving Kaylee pitching lessons, and she was 10, 11, whatever, how old, she was young. Let's just say that. How has your interactions early with different age demographics or other sports impacted what you are doing on the field with the athletes that you're coaching professionally?
Interesting question. I don't know for sure. I think being with I'll always say that my favorite age group to coach is like 10 and under. And even though I love coaching college, like they're so fun and they're excited about everything and their brains are all over the place, but they're just so happy to be out there and playing softball every single day. And I feel like sometimes as college athletes, there's just so much extra stress. And I think that that's what gets carried onto the softball field sometimes. And so I guess if anything, it's trying to, I like them to have a balance of the fun on the field. I don't like it to be strict all the time. In fact, in the middle of a game, like I'll have my players will goof off in between pitches, but they know when that pitch is coming, they're going to narrow in their focus and focus on the present. And then I really encourage them to detach, and it might be goofy or it might be serious depending on the athlete, but allowing that moment of fun to always be present in the game. And I think that has come from working with younger age groups too, reminding us to love the game.
Yep. Super important, and figuring out how to, remember why they started, right? Remember why you started, and bring that back to the forefront when often as you get older, it becomes almost more of a job. And I think that's, very thoughtful and relevant for, people that may be listening. As you think back, and we go back to, you started after graduating, helping out at San Francisco State, right? Then heading down south, playing professionally, and you've gone on this great journey, which I would imagine you wouldn't change for anything. However, if you could start over in, day one of getting into coaching and transitioning from playing or whatever else it is you're doing, getting back into it after the year you had off, what advice would you have for your younger self? What would you do differently in regards to your growth and getting to where you are now so that you could have a greater impact at an earlier point in your career?
That's pretty easy for me. When I took over the high school program and I was a head varsity coach, that was my first head coaching job. I wanted to emulate all the best coaches. I wanted to be tough, and I wanted to make sure that we did study hall really strictly, and we ran a lot, and we did all these things that I did as an athlete building up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I went directly into what I thought were head coaching shoes, but they weren't mine.
Mm.
And that I learned very quickly. I didn't get buy-in from the athletes. There was a lot of adversity. This team had so much talent and very little faith in their own ability to succeed. And I think that by just pushing them in the wrong way, I didn't help the situation. And what I've learned is from that experience, I really have taken a step back, and I try to be very true to what I feel versus trying to be someone else and be this tough guy all the time, right? I try to, I'm goofy and I love softball and I want that to shine through. And I feel like the more that I allow myself to just be myself as I coach and keep my standards and toughness and whatever, but the more I allow myself to be myself as I coach, the more buy-in I get. And these athletes, I feel like I get so much more out of them because they know that I genuinely care about them. And I wasn't able to show that to my high school athletes.
Why do you think that's the case when we're younger and just starting on the journey? And it's been a consistent theme throughout my discussions that, be yourself, relationships are king. This is what's important. And when we're younger, that's not where our focus usually goes.
I think it's twofold. One, I think that the sports has changed. I think relationships have become much more important. And we're talking about it more. And two, it's what you're exposed to. So I think all of us are going to coach it with the education that we have. And as we go through it, we learn different things. I was listening to your talk with Carnazzo,
Mhm.
and he was talking about all the books he's always reading and the books he's listening to and all that kind of stuff. And that's exactly what you have to do. You have to constantly be educating yourself. I just got off of listening to a panel that the NFCA put on, and it's all about listening and educating and trying to better yourself. And I feel like as all this information is coming out and people are writing more books and we're hearing from, all these great coaches, the Woodens and all that, we're absorbing that and realizing that, okay, we're not just going to emulate what we saw when we were a player.
Mhm.
We're going to take words from the best coaches. There's so much information out there.
Mhm.
And now we can buy into that and implement that in our own programs. So
Mhm.
that's been really fun
Mhm.
and it has helped me grow as a coach.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that, right? You're trying to gather knowledge, and we didn't have it as accessible as it is now, and there's different ways you can do that. And I've said ad nauseum, I think I learned more about coaching in the 4 years I was coaching, 8-year-old to 12-year-old softball than, 20 years of basketball. That, that's my primary sport, but there's things that I learned, coaching youth softball that I can apply directly to what I do now. And I thought that was really empowering and educational to do that. You mentioned earlier that um, who is really important in, let's just say, landing a job, just for lack of a better term. How do you grow your network in a way, or how did you do that, that allows you to know the right people?
You just never forget anyone, right? Like, and in saying that I have a bad memory, but the second you text me, I had looked up your daughters probably a month ago to see how they did in high school last year. Like
Yeah.
I honestly, I think that it's important, just every person that you meet, try to form a connection with, and then go out of your way to form connections with people that you don't know.
Right.
So I had someone actually, to share a story from the summer, emailed, I'm sure, a bunch of coaches and was just like, look, I really want to get into coaching at the higher level. I'm at a JC right now. I'm really interested in what the next steps are. And we had probably a 45-minute phone call, and I was able to tell him my advice and whatever. And then he sent me an email back, or a text back, probably a month ago, saying he landed a new job. It's at a Division II school. He's really excited. And you have to put an effort into your network
Mhm.
just as much as you do studying for a class or doing anything else. And then just make sure to continuously touch those people in different ways and get mentors. I think that that's really important too.
Yeah, and I think what you just said was also valuable, that when people reach out, respond and offer yourself up almost as a mentor without being asked. And since I've taken over as athletic director, I get a bunch of people reaching out asking questions, and I make it a priority to always reach back out, because I know how important that was for me. And sometimes it's quick, sometimes it's long, but you're developing these relationships that, if you want to be strategic about it, may serve you later on, but really it's just about giving back and paying it forward.
Right. And I think it's just being a good person and building those relationships and knowing that, exactly like you said, just give back and try to help someone, because I know so many people have helped me to get to where I am today.
Mhm. Well, thanks. I really think, some of those stories are going to be helpful for others. I really appreciate you sharing, the journey and the experience. And, hopefully when we have a little more time and we return to normalcy, we can come up and catch a game, and you can reconnect a little bit with your proteges of old.
I would love that.
All right, Coach, take care. Thanks for being here. See you soon.
Thanks.